The story of this girl whose life ended at 28 is unique, disgusting, and amazing at the same time. Unfortunately, female Nazi criminals, with exception of the most famous for their atrocities, are rather sparsely described in the literature. However, the women and girls who work in the camps often suppresses the opposite sex in cruelty and atrocities. Salvequart is one of such characters. She was not a native German, as she was born in Czechoslovakia in the city of Volkoncha, in the family of Czech and a German. Her parents moved to Germany in 1919. Here the girl received a secondary medical education diploma of a nurse and lived a rather calm and unremarkable life. There is no information that she took part and was a member of Nazi youth organization, just as there is no data on Vera Salvequart's attitude to Nazi ideology. Oddly enough, but at first the biography of Vera is more like an almost anti-fascist one. In 1941 she was arrested on charges of concealing the whereabouts of a Jew. This wanted Jew was the girl's young man, whom she refused to hand over to the authorities. Therefore, a German court sentenced Vera Salvequart to 10 months in the Flossenburg concentration camp. Shortly after her release, Vera was again detained and brought to trial. According to some reports, the charge was the same: concealing the whereabouts of a hiding Jew and refusing to turn him over to the authorities. It is not clear whether this concerned the girl's first boyfriend or whether she met another after her release. Be that as it may, the second sentence was tougher, 2 years in prison. And again, there is no information on where exactly Vera Salvequart was serving her sentence. The girl was released in November 1944, according to other sources in April. Based on the condition in which the prisoners of the concentration camp were, including the German women themselves, it is quite difficult to believe that Vera passed 2 terms and returned alive and unharmed. A little later we will pay attention to this inconspicuous moment, but for now, Vera Salvequart soon again found herself in the field of view of the German authorities. Almost a month after her release on December 6, 1944, the girl was arrested for helping several captured officers escape. Here the sentence was already quite harsh: imprisonment in the Ravensbrück concentration camp. The fact that it was the most horrible women's death camp, which had no equal in the level of atrocities and humiliation of its prisoners, and which is now known to almost everyone. For example, a former prisoner, Blanca Rothschild, told the trial, "A living hell awaited us in Ravensbrück. They made us undergo a medical examination, and it was, even the word shameful does not fit here, because there was nothing human in the people who performed it. They were worse than animals." And that's when things got weird. There was a huge shortage of workers in the camp, so Vera Salvequart as a nurse quickly received an offer to work in her specialty. In fact, the girl was offered the position of capo, a concentration camp prisoner who worked for the administration. According to the recollections of many prisoners, such capos often treated the prisoners much worse than the guards and wardens from the SS themselves. The reason was the desire to curry favor with the masters and receive some kinds of hypothetical approval and even a change of status. So Vera Salvequart changed the camp barracks for quite comfortable conditions and worked in the hospital wing of Ravensbrück. The task of the girl was to ascertain the death of the prisoner and prepare an appropriate certificate. After the liberation of the camp by the Allied forces, all the detained employees were transferred to the Hamburg prison, the British zone of occupation. Accordingly, the trial of Nazi criminals was conducted by a British military tribunal. And the trial itself was full of strangeness, to which few people paid attention. Vera Salvequart was in the dock at number 10. The girl behaved quite calmly, saying that as a nurse she saved the lives of prisoners. For example, she told the court that she had repeatedly replaced the numbers of living prisoners with the numbers of those who had already died in order to save their unfortunate lives. I remember the patients at the beginning did not trust me, because they thought that I took part. I must say that in their place I would have the same impression. I was constantly locked up. It was impossible to go anywhere alone, and all they knew about me was that I lived in a place where so many people were killed. Moreover, Vera stated that she saved a child from the crematorium, and when the camp authorities suspected her of this, she dressed in men clothes and hid in the camp, lost among the men until her release. Is it possible to hide in a camp where every prisoner is constantly inside? Everything is examined in detail, daily checks are carried out, and there are simply no nooks and crannies? Is a rhetorical question. Therefore, It is not surprising that the judges suspected Vera Salvequart of perjury. However, there were two witnesses at the trial whose testimony completely contradicted everything Salvequart said. Finally, there is one inconspicuous detail in the case file, according to the accused. It turned out that there was no documentary evidence that the girl has been imprisoned twice before Ravensbrück, as apparently there was no evidence of the rescue of some nameless captured officers. In other words, it can be assumed that the entire heroic biography of the nurse was a fairy tale invented by herself. This confidence among the judges was especially strengthened after the witness Irene Adler testified that in the medical barracks where Vera Salvequart worked, the Dr. Joseph Keller practically did not appear. So the nurse was in charge of everything. According to Irene Adler, Vera Salvequart gave the sick some kind of white powder, saying that it would help to give strength before the expected transport of the prisoner to another place. If someone refused to take the powder, Vera threatened to give an injection. After taking the medicine, the prisoner fell asleep and did not wake up again. Approximately death occurred within a day, and the nurse didn't show any surprise at the facts of death. So the judges agreed with the testimony that the girl clearly and distinctly understood what she was doing. According to Irene Adler, she personally saw at least 3 such doses of powders, and possibly 5. The witness could not remember more precisely. It is interesting that Adler at the trial admitted that Vera Salvequart sometimes helped prisoners. I have to say that Vera Salvequart's behavior was ambivalent. It is true that she saved the lives of some women, but it is also a fact that she killed quite a few of them. After such a statement, one would have expected that the accused would receive at most a long prison sentence. But a second witness, Lottie Sontag, testified that Vera Salvequart did not give the powder to prisoners because they refused to take it from the hand of the wardens and the SS guards. In addition, Vera, according to the witness, supplied many prisoners with the poisoned shoes left over from the poisoned prisoners. To what number of deaths such charity has led is unknown. On the basis of the testimony received on February 3, 1947, the court found Vera Salvequart guilty and sentenced to death by hanging. And then the former nurse made a move. She appealed for the pardon to the King of Britain, George VI, in which in particular she stated that she had collaborated with a British intelligence officer, to whom she had transferred the blueprints of the V-2 rocket stolen by her. Naturally, a detailed check immediately began, which however did not confirm anything. And on the plea for clemency, Deputy Justice General Lord Russell wrote, Vera Salvequart had made 7 absurd and inconsistent statements so far, 3 during the trial, 1 in her defense, and in 2 motions filed after the trial. It seems obvious that neither her written nor her spoken word can be relied upon. The sentence against Vera Salvequart was carried out at 9:03 a.m. on June 26, 1947. The nurse was buried in Whale Cemetery in Hameldt.